All right. Here we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Deadly Duo Chronicles podcast. I'm Cheyenne.
And I'm Heather.
And we are going to be exploring the darker side of the lesser-known mysterious serial killers, as well as some mystery disappearances around the world. On today's murder menu is
Nancy Hazel Doss, also known as the Giggling Granny. But first, some trigger warnings: domestic violence, serial murders, poison, manipulation, and SA. Nannie Doss was born Nancy Hazel on November 4th, 1905. In a small town in between Anniston and Jacksonville called Calhoun County, to her mom, Louisa Hazel and James Hazel. She had three sisters and one brother.
Yeah, and her dad was not your atypical, I guess. Back then, it was kind of very normal for low-class families for their kids not to go to school and get a good education. Her dad was actually really controlling. He wouldn't let them partake in even church events or wear makeup because that would attract the wrong attention wanted from males in general, I guess.
Yeah, so they spent most of their time working on the farm and doing chores around the house.
And then when Nannie was 7, they were going to visit relatives, and on the train ride home, she got injured, and it caused like a brain injury. And a lot of times now they say that there's a lot of speculation that the brain injury is what caused her to kind of just, lesser terms, fall off her rocker, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, because she had started having blackouts and even showing signs of depression.
Right. Nannie had a fascination.
Infatuation.
Infatuation. I can't say that word. But she had she took a really liking to romance stories, newspapers, articles, basically anything that she could get her hands on. When she was 16, she met her first husband, Charlie Braggs, in 1921. They worked at a linen factory. Only just a short time knowing each other, they ended up getting married. And I guess he was a bit of a mama's boy.
Yeah.
Because even after they got married, like, they had to live with her mother-in-law, who, like, classic narcissist, took up all of his time. World had to revolve around her. But even after moving in with his mother, they went on to have 4 children, 4 daughters, actually.
Yeah. And
their first was 1922, Gertrude. And
right.
then 1923
was Zelmer.
And then their other daughter in 1924. And then their last daughter in 1926. Which, after their last daughter, Melvina Braggs, Nannie went into a bit of a depression. Like, back then, I guess postpartum wasn't really a thing.
Right.
It was a thing, it just wasn't talked about. So I would classify her symptoms as postpartum depression, like depression, turning to drinking, a substance abuse, pretty much. And that caused her and her husband to go in like this whole whirlwind of a disastrous marriage. He was stepping out. She was stepping out. it wasn't until 1927 when later on they discovered that the death of Zelma and Gertrude wasn't food poisoning. Nannie had actually poisoned them, but no resources back then. That was basically, they just rolled their deaths as food poisoning.
Right.
Which, of course, added more strain onto the marriage, which then later ended.
Yeah, they got divorced in 1928, and she moved back in with her parents.
Yeah, and ended up going to work.
She started working at a cotton mill, and that's where she found her husband, Frank Harrelson, in the Lonely Hearts column of the newspaper. He wooed her with poetry, and she would send him letters and photos.
I mean, I guess that's all it took back then, huh?
I mean, expectations wasn't very high.
I mean, they're not now either, but you don't find love in a newspaper. You find Craigslist killer in the newspaper. But they later on got married, and once again, her daddy issues. She married a controlling alcoholic. Despite all that, though, she didn't kill again for 16 years.
Right.
So she had a 16-year age gap from her first two murders to Frank.
Which is pretty uncommon for a murderer to go that far in between.
Well, no, she didn't murder Frank. She murdered... I'll have to scrap that. She went until... So from 1927 to 1943, Nannie actually went on and paused because she didn't kill again until her granddaughter, Melvina, gave birth.
Right.
And then Melvina saw her stab her daughter with a hat pin to the brain.
Right.
Which you would think after witnessing this and sticking to that story, you wouldn't allow her to babysit your children, let alone she left her whole son
right
with Nannie. Which
then just a short while after.
Right, because she went on about her business because her and her husband fell apart, and she went and met a soldier, and then left her mom to babysit, and then turn around. Nannie admitted that she killed him. He died of asphyxiation due to unknown causes, but later on, like I said, Nannie admitted to killing him.
Right.
To collect the life insurance policy. She collected $500 from that, which back then was a lot of money.
Right. And today it would be equivalent of $9,000.
Right. It was just a lot of money.
Right.
And then in September, Frank Harrelson went out to celebrate the end of World War II with some buddies and got drunk and then come home, beat her and raped her. So I guess that would be enough to set anybody off the edge, because then the following day, Nannie decided, hey, 16 years, I've had enough, and she put rat poisoning in his whiskey. And, the rest is...
and by this point, killing is nothing to her. She's already got 3 under her belt.
That is very true.
So,
and then her third husband she met in 1946, which she met once again in the Lonely Hearts column.
Her and her newspapers.
At least the girl. Which you would think, having bare minimum schooling, the newspaper reading a newspaper would be like the last.
Yeah,
but she had a fascination with it. Because
she didn't spend that much time in school. I'm wondering how she learned how to read.
I don't know. Never did really come across that.
Because her dad's not teaching her.
No, but she may have got like some lessons in between. Everybody was super friendly back then.
Yeah, because it says her mom wasn't mean. Her mom was relatively nice.
Which I'm sure
but she was abused by the dad as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that she is a victim of domestic violence.
So I'm wondering if the mom might have been teaching her in their downtime.
They could have. But in 1946, she married Arlie Jackson Lanning just a few days after knowing him.
Yeah, she moves on really quick.
Well, somebody's got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But he ended up turning out to be, once again, an alcoholic, womanizer. And in that time of that marriage, she actually would go and disappear at days at a time to go visit her sister, Dovey, who was bedridden.
Right.
And then in June of 1950, while visiting Dovey mysteriously died. And then on September 7th, 1950, Nannie's mother-in-law, Sarah, passed away suddenly, unexpectedly in her sleep. And then on February 16th of 1952, Lanning passed away, which they said his cause of death was heart failure, which later on would come out she poisoned him.
And she also collected life insurance. Well, life insurance.
House insurance. She burnt down their home and collected money for.
Right.
Which kind of makes you wonder, was there something in there that she was afraid of getting caught with and just wanted to burn it down, or did she just want the money? You know, you never know with psychos.
Yeah.
You never know with psychos. All right, husband number 4. We don't skip a beat on that. Husband number 4.
Richard Lewis Morton Sr. met Nannie through a dating service called Diamond Circle Club and married shortly after in 1952. Once again, not wasting no time.
Sometimes it's just easier to get up and meet somebody new.
And we know a couple. Sorry.
So, meanwhile, living in Kansas, Richard was not an alcoholic, but he did have a way with the ladies. He was a womanizer. And then soon after the two tied the knot, Nannie's mother, Louisa, came to live with the couple because she actually suffered from a broken leg.
Right. And this was shortly after Nannie's dad had passed.
Yes.
Right.
And then she ended up dying of stomach pains, which once again, later on, she confesses to poisoning her mother.
Right.
And then this is messed up because then Morton dies drinking coffee that Nannie had made. Clearly, you would think, putting 2 to 2 together, whatever this woman made or brought you didn't eat. But back then, I guess people was too trustworthy.
Yeah.
Trauma doesn't make you very trustworthy.
Trauma bonded.
Yeah. Massive amounts of arsenic in his system. Oh, nope, I skipped ahead. Yeah, I did. There we go. Nannie's 5th and final husband. Nannie went on to marry her fifth and final husband, Samuel Doss of Toulouse, in June of 1953. He was a minister. The couple was complete opposite at this point. Nannie liked to drink. She loved romance, anything like that, where he didn't drink. He didn't like any romance novels. Didn't even like having them in the house. And then in September of 1954, her first failed attempt to kill him, because, I mean, if you can't have romance, I could only imagine what it probably was pretty boring and dry. Right. That would make me want somebody too.
Yeah. He had spent, I think he said he was
a month
and a half. Yeah.
He spent a month recuperating.
To recuperate. After she tried to use arsenic.
Yeah.
She laced his prune cake.
Which, once again, shouldn't eat or drink anything coming from this lady, but the doctors actually suspected foul play the first time that he come in.
Right.
But it wasn't long after being home that Nannie, she tried to off this guy again. She was like, I'm done. Like, whatever happened to divorce at this point? But then Nannie successively tried again and ended up killing him. At that point, the doctors actually ordered an autopsy. And the autopsy showed a massive amounts of arsenic in his system. Like, she wasn't playing around. She was like, you're going to die this time.
Yeah, because the doctor actually tricked her into doing the autopsy.
Right.
They told her that it would help save lives later on.
If they could figure out
what had actually killed him.
Right, exactly.
So she actually caused her own demise.
Yeah, well, she was smart there for a little bit, and then, after so many husbands, they kind of catch on. She was immediately arrested, put into custody, and then when they went to do the interrogation, her demeanor was actually described as flirtatious and giggly.
Right.
Hence the name Giggling Granny. She never showed any fear, no remorse, no guilt.
Right. It was just another day at the office for her.
Right. It was just, I feel like she seeked attention, and just by them interrogating her gave her attention.
Right.
Because she had no problem confessing that she killed their daughter Zelmer and Gertrude in 1927 by using poison, along with her granddaughter using a hat pin, and then killing her grandson Haynes by asphyxiation. And then in 1945, as well as killing her husband Frank Harrelson by using rat poison. And then again in 1950, claiming the lives of her sister Dovey and her mother-in-law Sarah. Then her husband Arlie Lanning in 1952 died by poison. 1953, Nannie struck again, killing her mother, her fourth husband, Richard Moore Sr., by poison. And then finally got caught when authorities caught on to her method of her fifth killing.
Right.
Which, she was sentenced for, she was never charged for any of the murders outside of Oklahoma. So she only was charged with her fifth and final husband's murder, Mr. Doss's murder.
Right.
Which she pleaded guilty to in May 1955.
Right, and she was sentenced to life imprisonment. The state didn't pursue the death penalty.
No, because back then women, they didn't really...
Right.
You had a vagina, you couldn't get sentenced to death a lot of times, and not in all states, but certain states were kind of picky about that.
Yeah. And she later had died from leukemia in the hospital.
Right. But it sounds like, in all honesty, she killed her 2 children, most likely out of, I would say, a classic postpartum. I really do. I would say, because of all of her depression and drinking and stuff. But then once she realized that she could get away with it, she just kept pushing her limits till she couldn't. Well, until she was finally caught.
Right.
In all honesty, I don't think they would have been able to catch her had the doctor not done the autopsy.
Right. Yeah.
But it just goes to show that any wrong injury to the brain or malformation can cause a killer to arise. Like, it just...
Right. Yeah.
Anything like that can happen. And unfortunately for the victims, she had a thing for keeping it in the family. Yeah. Which probably also helped her a lot, too. Because she didn't go out killing random people.
Right.
She killed people close to her, which made it easier for her to
have access to them.
Yeah, and she didn't have to fight them. She didn't go doing a selection.
But you would have thought that the cops would have started looking, like, especially since it seemed she was the center point of all of them. Like, it seemed she was the last person to see every single one of them before they died. And nobody caught on. I don't know if that's just because of the time that it was.
It could have been, and a lot of it was back then. I don't think women was really pursued.
Yeah, back then they really didn't think women could kill, especially their own children. So, I mean, maybe.
Well, that, and after having children, especially back to back like that, you can't just go to the doctor and be like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm having these symptoms, and these symptoms. They're just going to say, oh, well, take you something and you'll be okay in a couple days.
Right.
Women didn't share their feelings back then, which kind of helped men out in a way, is what they say.
Yeah.
Whatever. But, I mean, she had a lot of daddy issues.
Very much. And she seemed to, really gravitate towards
the same type of men that her father was. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because she went for alcoholics, controlling, womanizer, abusive. One sexually assaulted her. I guess after a person in general can only take so much, but the only one that got lucky was Charlie, and which I don't understand. Why not kill Charlie instead of killing your 2 kids? That's what I don't get. He got lucky. Which he said, actually, in one part, he said that he always feared Nannie.
Right.
But if you feared her, why did you let your children stay with her?
Well, he actually took the one child away.
Melvina for a little bit.
He took Melvina away for a year, and then he ended up coming back a year later with the daughter and a new love interest.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Which I can't remember her name.
I'm not sure.
But he had found a new love interest, and then that made Nannie really mad. So she took both kids and moved back in with her parents.
Okay, I got you.
Because he technically owned the house.
Oh, okay.
So when he came back, she had to leave.
Gotcha.
So to get back at him, she took both of the kids. Which I don't understand why he only took the one.
Maybe he fled. Like he pulled a "I'm gonna go get milk" card and never came back, or left when she wasn't looking.
The one that he had left was younger, so I'm wondering if maybe the one was like being breastfed or something, so he couldn't really take the baby.
Could have been. I mean, it's possible. It's not something that
Because there was really no. He never really said why he only took the one.
No, there was really no documentation really on it.
Right.
It was just a brief summary.
So we can pretty much sit here and speculate all day.
That we can. We can speculate this whole case. But my biggest thing is with that is, like you said, how did they not catch on?
Yeah.
It's crazy the amount of stuff that she got away collecting life insurance policies on her husband, grandchild, burnt the house down, which kind of makes you wonder too, once again, speculation, kind of makes you wonder if there wasn't some type of evidence in there to why she burned it down, or did she not get life insurance out on the guy, so she just burned it down for the house insurance, which is another speculation, by the way.
Yeah, and she was really smart because she didn't take life insurance out on all of them. She only done it a couple of times.
Which goes to show that says that you really don't have to have an education to be a serial killer. Which, I mean, It's not like you can take a class, Serial Killers 101. I mean, it is what it is. But that is a wrap on this week's episode. Thank you for listening or watching. Once again, I'm Cheyenne.
And I'm Heather.
Hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
New episodes every Sunday.